how the amnesty scheme would work and how the benefits of the scheme to be utilized. A simple reason, this scheme is up until 31st March 2025. However, there is an exception where there was some group of people who will get the benefit after March, which during the course we will be discussing. Then another important topic for the day is input service distributor. 1st April 25, many people are saying that ISD is mandatory. We need to understand whether it is mandatory from 1st April 25. Was it not effective from the day one? What are the changes and what is the importance of 1st April 25? If at all, I am now complying with ISD, detailed understanding on the provisions, how to file the returns, going through the form, various things. My name is Venugopal Gella. I am one of the speakers for today's session. With me, I have CA Ashika Agarwal, who would be taking first part of the session, which is amnesty scheme, and CA Hitesh, who will be taking on the second part of the session, which is on ISD. As we mention in every session, feel free to interact, ask your questions. You are here to learn and understand. Do not leave the sessions having some queries not resolved. We will make sure that every question is answered. If something is pending, we will get back to you. Today, we are only having GST session, as 2 sessions are very much important. Tech session is not planned, but as a tech person, I always ensure that the finance professionals should be upgraded in the tech skills. With the GPTs and AI being there, in the upcoming sessions, we have planned of how we can start using AI in providing dynamic reports, dynamic data extraction, and make use in our day-to-day course. Coming back to today's session, couple of other points. Everyone should now use technology only for GST alone. You need to be on top of all the notices that you have received, status of notice, if attended, if not attended. When a notice comes, what is the due date to reply that notice, you need to be knowing. You also need to know the consequences of not replying the notice on time. The importance of amnesty scheme makes you very important. 31st March 25 is the deadline. And if someone is not even aware that there is a notice which I was supposed to attend to, or you have filed an appeal, you lost the appeal, you are waiting for the tribunals to be formed. Had you known that there is an amnesty scheme, you would want to go there and get it resolved. Today, someone wants to buy peace by paying little premium. Maybe this scheme is for the same. What is very important in amnesty scheme is waiver of interest and penalty. Is this waiver uniform, or some cases where the waiver is not applicable? This is also important for you to note in today's session. Not every interest and penalty is waived off. Not every demand notice comes under amnesty scheme. So as a takeaway from today's sessions, you should be knowing where the penalty and demand can be waived, where it would be applicable, where it is not applicable. I would request Ashika to take over from here and present. Wherever some clarifications is needed, I am going to pitch in and present on the topic. Ashika, over to you.
Thank you. So, as discussed, today we are going to discuss about amnesty scheme and input service distributor. Our flow, first we will be discussing about amnesty scheme. Under amnesty scheme, first we will be understanding of the scheme, And then step by step, we will also learn the application procedure involved there and the practical issues which are also there. With an illustration, we will go through it for better understanding. One.
Yeah, I think that echo issue is now resolved. So for the benefit, I am muting all the participants. You can put your question in the chat so that there is no side talk that is coming up.
So first starting with about the amnesty scheme. Now in amnesty scheme, we will be dividing our discussion in 4 parts. So first we will be discussing about section 16.5 and section 16.6. Now as we will be proceeding with the discussion of amnesty scheme, first thing which I want to clear is we are not going to go into any discussion on legality of the provision, how the provision should be interpreted, or what should be our stand legally. The whole focus of today's session is the benefit or the scheme which has been rolled out by the government, how we can use that, and who are eligible for them, and what are the process you need to be followed in order to make sure that you get the amnesty scheme benefit. So we will be limiting our discussion on this basis. So first starting with input tax credit. Now, as we are aware that section 16.4 prescribed the time limit to avail the IPC. Now, it specifically said that for a one financial year, I am eligible to claim the ITC by next following November month. So I have to make sure if I file my return by November of the following year, the ITC belonging to this year can be claimed. Just for example, like for the financial year 23-24, which has just now went, we have to make sure we file our GSTR 3B declaring all the transaction or ITC which belongs to 23-24 before 30th November 24, so that we are duly eligible for ITC and no ITC get time barred. Now, what has happened in the past is, though there was this time limit, but the question which arose was, is it will be applicable only in case where there is involvement of case of stale invoice, or it will also be applicable for belated filing of return. Now we have noticed in the past that as COVID also hit and GST being the new implementation, there has been a cases where people have belatedly filed their GST return. And due to belated filing of GST return, lot of notices department has issued barring the ITC by saying that it is beyond the time period prescribed under 16.4. Now it's a welcome move from the government where for the first 4 years from the implementation of GST, they said they are giving me extended time. That is your 16 by way of 16.5 for first 4 years till 30th November 2021. So for 17-18, 18-19, 19-20, 20-21, if I have filed my GSTR 3B before 30th November 2021, even though it is getting time lapse by 16.4, then also I am eligible to claim the ITC. So in short, if I say, they said I am eligible for benefit only and only when the ITC related detail I have reported in 3B. 1. Second, I have filed my 3B before 30th November 2021. It doesn't matter which year it is, which month it is, belonging to any of this 4 year, but the condition is it should be filed before 30th November 2021. If those two conditions are satisfied, then I am duly eligible for ITC. And by way of this this 65, which has been retrospectively introduced, I will not be barred to claim the ITC which I have already claimed. Now, as I said, we are not going into legal dispute that should ITC should be aware to 3B, but whether books ITC should be considered or not. Those all will not go into today. Simply what the benefit has been provided by the government, we will be discussing, and how we can opt for that benefit, we will be discussing. So I hope that 16.5, when we can claim the benefit, I have clarified. Now we will move to how this benefit is available. Now, if you see, two scenarios can arise. One scenario is where it is pending at my end, and one scenario is when it is pending with the officer. Now, what I mean by saying pending at my end is, in this category, only two situations will arise. First is adjudication order. So it can be a case I have received the order, and after receiving of order, I have not filed an appeal. In that scenario, it is pending with me. One. Second, in case of appeal order, means where adjudication order was received, I have filed an appeal. After filing an appeal, my appeal got dismissed. Appellate order has been issued against me, means basically disallowing me the ITC benefit in term of 16.4. So this provision is only limited to time limit. Okay, there is no discussion on eligibility of the ITC. The only reason because of which any notice or any proceeding has been initiated against you, if it's related to time limit of availment of ITC for the first 4 years, then only you are covered under this benefit. One. Second, if it is pending at your stage, now what the procedure they have prescribed, they have said, I have to file a rectification. So as an assessee or taxpayer, in order to claim the benefit of 16.5, where the time limit has been extended, I have to go in the portal and file for rectification. The moment I will file for rectification, I will become eligible for this benefit, and officer need to pass a revised order by taking into the consideration section benefit provided by section 16.5. Now, how you can apply for that benefit? But you remember, you have to take action only in this two situations, where there is an adjudication order and you haven't done anything, or where there is an appeal order, you haven't done. Because against appeal order, we can't do anything because tribunal still not formed. So in this two situation only, I have to file a rectification. Now let me take you how we can file a rectification. So let me take you to GST portal. So here you will be able to see services. I hope my screen is visible.
Not yet, ma'am.
Now,
Yeah, now it
It's
is visible.
visible.
so after login, you will see service tab. Over here, you have to click on services, user services, and then my application. After clicking on my application, you have to click on application for rectification of order. New application. Now this form will get open for rectification. Here, if your order is uploaded online for 16.4, it will immediately appear over here in a drop-down box. So you can select your order, automatically all the data will get filled. Now over here you have to write ground for rectification. Now ground for rectification also they have clarified what need to be written. You have to simply write application for rectification under notification 22/2024. 22/2024 is the notification through which they have prescribed this mechanism. So you have to write that this is the application of rectification under section 16(5) under in terms of notification 22/2024. You have to write that as a ground. Then you will see there is an attachment. So over here, if you will go in the top, you are also required to upload an annexure A. Here you can download the annexure A, which looks like this. So this is an annexure A, which I need to file with this application. So this just consists of basic detail, your GST and your trade name, order reference date, and the period. So in which period? Now there can be a case you might have received consolidated notice, means in one notice only 3-4 year cover, or you might have received year-wise notices, separate year-wise. So based on how you have received, means if you have received single notice for each year separately, you have to do this application also year-wise separately, because basically this order number is based on your form DRC07 reference number. If DRC07 has been issued year-wise, you have to also do this application year-wise. If it has been issued consolidated, then you have to do only one application for multiple year. And if you will see, annexure A is also designed in such manner. So in one only you can do multiple year, but you have to see how you have been issued order or show cause notice. Because according to that pattern only, you have to do the application. If one order is issued for 4 years, then all the 4 year details will go together. But if separate year-wise you have been issued, you have to do separate application. So here annexure A is just a basic detail. Over here, first you need to write the total demand in serial number 2. It may be a case, apart from 16(4) also, you have other issue also. So over here, you will write the total demand based on the order issue. Maybe consider of multiple issue, maybe of single issue. So total demand. Now in that, if 16(4) issue is there, over here first part deals with 16(5), means time bar. That is 30th November 2021, where you have been provided time. So over here, then you will give which relate to your 16(4) issue within 30th November that you have filed before 30th November and it is declared in 3. So over here you have to give that ITC in relation to which it has been disallowed on ground of time bar under 16. Now there is another more table B. This relate to registration, where registration has been restored. This part we will come. First we will cover 16(5). So this annexure also need to be filled in and it need to be uploaded on GST portal in this rectification part. Now, this I discussed when the order was appearing on GST portal. Now, there can be also a situation when it is not appearing on GST. Then also nothing to worry. This annexure 8 is a word copy which you download from government portal. You can fill those details and with one letter, small letter, stating about the fact that you are doing an application for rectification with that letter and annexure A and with the order copy self-certified, you can go and submit to department for the purpose of this rectification due to 16(5) benefit. Now I talked about when it is pending at my end. Now when it is pending at my end, then only I have to apply for rectification. If it is not pending at my end, I am not required to apply for rectification. As I said, rectification will happen only and only two situations. So this you need to keep in mind. You should not, for each and every case, you should not apply. I mean to say, there can be a case where adjudication order has been issued. After issue of order, you have also filed an appeal. After filing an appeal, but still personal hearing has not happened or order has not been decided by the officer. But you took the initiative and you have filed an appeal. As you have filed an appeal and you have taken initiative, you are not required to file any rectification where it is pending before appellate authority. Over there, when the personal hearing will be scheduled, appellate authority is required to take into the cognizance this retrospective amendment, and he himself has to allow you this benefit. So you have to understand the two differentiation. Here now we are discussing when the case is going on, where the proceeding is still going on and it need to be decided. And the first situation we discussed, that proceeding happened as an SSC didn't took further step, obviously it ended there. So recovery can be made. Now to stop the recovery, you have to do the rectification. But where proceeding is going on, maybe by way of adjudication, maybe by way of appeal, or maybe by way of revision, whatever may be the stage, if proceeding is still going on and it is pending with the officer, then officer himself required to take the cognizance of it. Now, but as a prudent taxpayer, we have to make sure we bring in this change of provision in the notice of the officer. So if any proceeding is still going on, like I said, it may be a case against an adjudication order, you might have filed an appeal. At the time of filing of appeal, maybe this 16.5 provision was not there. Now it has come. Now personal hearing would have been scheduled. At the time of personal hearing, make one additional submission, write about this 16.5 introduction, give it to the officer and say that now I am duly eligible for the credit. So this is how the approach should be. So if it is pending before audit investigation, now it has also been specified who will require to take cognizance, means who is required to make sure if any 16.4 issue is there, by keeping in mind 16.5 decision is taken, are these officers. Like if it is pending before the audit officer, then audit officer has to make sure he take into consideration 16.5. If you are at show cause notice level, obviously for the show cause notice level, you are going to file a reply to show cause. While filing reply to show cause notice, make sure you write about 16.5 over there. Then the moment you write 16.5 over there, then adjudicating officer means who is going to look into the case and passing the order, he has to make sure he read your reply and accordingly give you the benefit. Appeal I already discussed. And if your case is selected for revision by the revisional authority, then revisional authority has to make sure that before he issued a revisional order, he makes sure if any 16.4 issue is there, 16.5 or 16.6 benefit if available to you has been properly taken into consideration and then only order is passed. So you are required when you are pending rectification. Otherwise, you are not required to file any pending rectification. You just need to brought to the notice of the officer the introduction of 16.5 and 16.6. Now, as we discuss about 16.5, let me take you through 16.6. Now, this was also one of the pain which the taxpayer were having. It has been noticed in the past where registration were getting cancelled due to non-filing or wherever officer feel that there has been something wrong going on. And when they cancel registration, they were not only cancel registration from the date filing of return is stopped, but they were also cancelling from the date retrospective, even where the returns have been filed. Now people have went for appeal, went to High Court, got their registration restored. Fine. Now the moment I get my registration restored, now the question which arises, it may be a case that time which has taken to file to make sure to get my registration restored, my time limit to claim an ITC might have lapsed under 16. By keeping this in mind, what the government has done, they have come with the provision where they have said in such a situation where registration got restored, if SSC filed all the returns which were pending within 30 days, obviously while filing the return, you have to show your ITC claim also there. So if you file all your return declaring how much ITC was available to you and you report them within 30 days, then they said those ITC would be allowed to you. So time limit under 16.4 will not operate. provided you file all your returns within 30 days. So let us understand this point with one scenario. Now, this condition which they have given with one more clause that extend means time limit which will be applicable will be later of time limit provided under 16.4 or the time limit of 30 days from the date of restoration. So how it is dealing is, if you will see first situation, suppose my registration got cancelled on 1st December. Revocation happened on 28th July 2023. So this we are talking for the financial year 22-23. Now, as my registration got cancelled on July 23, for financial year 22-23, I have a time limit to claim ITC till 30th November 23. But if I see my 28th July, if I have to file a return within 30 days, it gets expired on 20th August. So they are saying letter of the 20th August or 30th November. So over here, 30-day time limit to file the return will not be followed. It is the 30th November which will be followed. So for 22-23, I'm eligible, even though my filing may be after 30 days, even maybe I have not done, but I have done it before 30th November. Then the ITC which I have claimed, I am duly eligible for the same in term of 16.4, not 16.6. Okay. But 16.6 says letter of, so both the compliance of the provision has been made. Now coming to second situation. In second situation, if you will notice, revocation have been mentioned on 20th March 2024. So this revocation is happening after 30th November. 22-23 last day to claim is 30th November 23. But over here, my revocation is happening on 20th March 2024. So I have to make sure I file all my 3B by 20th April 2024. If I file before April 24, even though I have crossed my 16.4 time limit, I will be duly eligible for an ITC of 22-23 fully. Now the procedure over here is also same. Pending at me, rectification, pending at department has to take the action. 5 and 6 have the same procedure to be followed. Now, coming to the part of waiver of interest and penalty. Now, over here, as section 128A and read with rule 164, circular 238, these three are the important part which need to be studied before we go into this waiver understanding. See, as we know, this waiver has been given for first 3 years. You should notice when I discuss about ITC time limit, it was for 4 years. Amnesty scheme is only for 3 years, 17-18, 18-19, 19-20. Plus, this amnesty scheme only cover the cases which is under section 73, means non-fraud cases. Means 3 circumstances are not existing: suppression of fact, willful misstatement, or fraud. So, if it is issued under 74, you are not eligible. Only in non-fraud cases under 73, if it is issued, then only you are eligible under amnesty scheme, this waiver of interest and penalty. But when we discuss 16.4, there is no bar, whether it is under 73 or 74. In both the situation, for ITC part, time limit to avail ITC, you are eligible. But when you come to interest and penalty waiver, it is only limited to section 73 non-fraud case. So in this 2 conditions, then only you are eligible to apply for the scheme. So if we see our litigation proceeding, we normally divide it into 3 stages. So first stage we say pre-adjudication stage, which is basically before the issuance of show cause notice. So when investigation, audit, or assessment are going on, those we classify as a pre-adjudication state. Now, when the show cause notice has been issued, we say it to be an adjudication stage, and with the passing of the adjudication order, that adjudication stage ends. Now, I will say you why I am discussing this part. After adjudication proceeding be received, we file an appeal against that adjudication order. So that is what we call appeal stage. So adjudication order, we file an appeal. After filing of appeal, we receive an appellate order. Now, it may also happen that at the adjudication level only, your order, if it is passed in your favor, it may go under review. And even it can happen at appeal stage order also, where appeal order has been passed in favor. Department may take into consideration of that order and may pass a revisional order. If they feel there has been any error in the order, which basically is prejudicial to the interest of the revenue, they can pick those cases to do the review. So either there can be a revision of order, or there can be a case where department even also went for appeal against the order. Now, why I discuss this is when we see 16.4 or 16.5, it is covered in all the stages. Whichever stage your case is pending. If it is a case of time limit and you fall under the benefit of 16.5 and 16.6, in all these three stages, you will be eligible for the benefit. But when we come to waiver of interest and penalty, it starts only with the adjudication stage. There is a reason. Reason being when it is happening in the pre-adjudication state, it is just an observation. They feel that there has been some tax evasion or there has been irregular event. Until and unless an order is passed, demand is not confirmed. It's just the officer feel there has been something wrong happened. That's the reason waiver of interest and penalty operate after the issuance of show cause notice. So if you are at adjudication stage or at appeal stage, then only you are eligible to apply under the scheme for waiver of interest and penalty. So what are the situations which can be covered? Either you can at the show cause notice, either you can be at the order level. When I say adjudication order, it may be a case you have not filed an appeal, order is pending with you, and time limit to file an appeal has got lapsed. It may be case of appeal order also, means you filed an appeal, officer has decided the case against you, it is pending at first appeal order, as tribunal has not formed, so you would not have filed an appeal. Or it can be a case you file an appeal, but case is still not decided, so it is pending at appeal level. Then, as I said, order, adjudication order or appeal order can also pick for revision, where they feel there is a prejudicial to the interest of revenue. So it can be pending with revisional authority, or it can be a case revisional authority has reviewed the order and has passed an order against you. So it can be pending at revisional order. Against revisional order also you can go ahead and file an appeal. So it can be at the revisional order or it is pending at revision level. Means officer has picked up your case for review. Or it can be a case where department may also have filed an appeal against the order issue. In all of these stages, wherever your case are pending, you have the option to apply for amnesty. But you have to keep in mind at the audit level, investigation level, you can't apply. It is only after issuance of show cause notice, one. And it covers only and only the situation when it is issued under 73, non-fraud cases. Now, there can be a situation where it has been issued under 74 but converted into 73. Means where the officer initiated the proceeding saying you have done fraud, but however, when the case proceeded, when the appeal filed at the time of hearing before appeal officer, it may be have been decided that there is no suppression and he might have asked you to issue under 73. So where 74 got converted into 73, in those situations also, you are eligible to file for the scheme. Now we will come to the time limit also, but first we are seeing which are the situation it can be covered. Now, as I said, it is applicable only where the proceeding under 70. Now, this date which has been prepared is basically to give you insight on today date, where are we standing. So if you will see for 73, 2017, 18, 2018, 19, 2019, 20, to pass an adjudication order under 73 has already been over. Because we are standing in Feb 25, 1920 was August 24. So to pass the show cause notice time limit under 73 is already over. So we are standing at order level. Now it can be a case after receipt of adjudication order, you might have filed an appeal or you may not have filed an appeal. Or if you have filed an appeal, it may be pending with the appellate authority, or it may be a case appellate authority has issued the order against you. All these scenarios are possible. Now, if you will see 74. Now, to issue under 74, only as of now, 17-18 date has been over of the order. Till 18, 19, 19, 20. And here, I have put only first 3 years, as amnesty is only for first 3 years. Now, 17, 18 time limit to pass the order has been over. But 18, 19, and 19, 20 is still there. I am not saying there can be a case only till now only officer would have done 74 for 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20. So, but till they have a time whose audit or investigation has not happened, they might be picked up under 74 also for this 2 years. 17, 18 will not happen as time limit has got lapsed. So, if anybody has received any notice or order which is under 74, make sure you get the proceeding done as fast as possible, because if there is nothing of such nature which can prove the case of 74, try to get it converted into 73 so that you can use this amnesty scheme benefit. Now we came to know who can apply for the amnesty. Now, another thing which has come is, what is the condition to apply for amnesty? They have given only one condition to apply for amnesty scheme. That is, you have to make sure you pay the full tax amount as given in the notice or order. Order can be adjudication order or appeal order. So the only condition that they have said is you have to make sure you make full payment of tax amount before applying for scheme. And this payment need to be done before 31st March 2025. Okay. So it is earlier. If you are applying for scheme now, you have to make sure you make the payment and then do the application. Otherwise, you have to make sure you do the payment before 31st March 2025. This payment has to be done before applying for the scheme. So this is the condition which they have given to apply under this scheme. Now, there may be a case, even though you are applying for under a scheme, you might have also filed an appeal, or you might have also filed a writ before High Court or Supreme. In such situation, they are saying, if it is pending at appeal level or it is pending with High Court or Supreme Court, you have to make sure you file one withdrawal application. So if you will go to GST portal in appeal, there is a separate option to do withdrawal of appeal. So you can file a withdrawal of appeal. If you have filed an online appeal, it will be appearing. So you can file a withdrawal of appeal there. After doing online application, you can go and submit that application to your officer also, because when you are applying for withdrawal of appeal, officer also need to issue withdrawal order, and that withdrawal order you have to upload while filing the scheme. It may be a case while filing the scheme you have done the application but order is not there. In that case, you have to upload withdrawal application And the moment you will receive the withdrawal order, within 1 month of receipt of withdrawal order, you have to submit with your concerned officer who is going to issue you amnesty scheme approval. Now, we understood we have to do full payment of tax. Now the question which arises, how we can do full payment of tax? They said if it is pending at a notice level, I have to do through DRC 03. If it is at order level, then I have to use the facility of payment toward demand liability. So I have to use electronic liability ledger in order to pay it. So if you will see in GST portal, if order is uploaded on portal, you will be able to see this facility. If order is not uploaded, then you have to do through DRC 03 only. So under services, user services, sorry, ledger, if you will see here, payment toward demand, it comes. So you can use this option. You can select automatically order will come. If you have multiple order, it will show multiple order. You can select the order against which you want to offer amnesty scheme. And after selecting, you can make the payment through cash or credit. You have option to make the payment to both. That is the best part over here, that they didn't set or come with the concept that you require to make the payment only and only through cash. They said you can even use credit. So after selecting the order, I can make payment through cash and credit. The moment I set it off, it will automatic will show in my form. While filing the form also, I will show how it will show. So it will automatically show that I have made the payment of tax toward this order for which I am going for amnesty. So I have to use this service ledger payment toward demand and has to make the payment. It is when it is a order is uploaded on GST portal. But if it is a show cause notice, you have to do through DRC. Now, mode I have already discussed that cash and credit both is allowed. However, there is an exception. I can't use my cash ledger in two instances where it is a RCM liability. Even now also they don't allow. While filing 3B also I have to pay cash. So while filing amnesty scheme also I have to pay in cash. Another is earnest refund. Obviously you get refund in cash. So no credit adjustment is allowed. You have to do the payment if your notice consists of any issue in relation to earnest refund in cash. Now, another thing which can come into mind is, as I said, 73 got over by 31st August, adjudication order and all. So it is not important that payment would have been made through payment toward demand. Payment can be in DRC 03 also. And so the question which might arise, what would happen if I had made any payment before issuance of show cause notice? So these are also payment only, not appropriated in order, not considered in order. So they said all the payment which belongs to the case you are going to apply for amnesty will be considered as a payment made toward the demand. However, in form they have prescribed how I have to do the adjustment. That also I will show you. So here all the payment which I have made with respect to that case for which I am going amnesty will be considered. One. Second, there can be also a scenario where recovery has been made. Now we have noticed in the past where they have gone through bank account attachment. They have given letter to my debtors and collected money from it, from the RC 13 which has been issued. They said even those recovered amount will also be considered while applying for scheme. But the thing is that as of now, they haven't provided the mechanism how those adjustments will be made. For DRC 03 payment made, how I can do adjustment, they have given in the form. But payment which is recovered from third party or from bank directly deducted, they have not given any mechanism as of now. But in case if any one of your SSC it has happened, what you can do is anyhow you will be having the proof of deduction. So you can submit one letter writing about how the payment is done. So you can say that this amount has been deducted through bank. You can give the bank statement. Even bank also gives a letter saying that they have received a letter from the department for this deduction. So you can attach those supporting while applying from scheme as a supporting document over there. Now, there are situations where the people, instead of thinking of going into litigation, they might have paid tax, interest, and penalty. Now they might think, as the amnesty provide tax to be paid and interest and penalty waiver, so can I claim refund of it? Answer is no. Now it may be a case you have been issued a notice or order where there are multiple issues. Out of 10 issues, you might have think 2 issues I will pay, 8 you are disputing. Now based on this amnesty scheme, you might be thinking, let's apply for amnesty. Interest and penalty paid. Can I adjust with that 8 issue tax? Answer is no. So what has been paid as interest and penalty, if you go for amnesty scheme, it's a loss. So neither refund, neither adjustment with other issue is allowed. Now I discussed that you need to make the payment before 31st March 2025. But there is one more thing. Now I said officer has the power to file an appeal against the order. Even your case may be picked by revisional authority to check whether the order has been properly passed. So there may be a situation arise that you may have applied for amnesty. While applying amnesty, you think there were 10 issues, out of which 8 issues got dropped, 2 issues got confirmed, of which 1 lakh tax was coming paid. So you thought of applying under amnesty. So you applied amnesty, you paid 1 lakh. Now your case has been picked for review. Now, based on review, it can happen out of 8 issues which has been dropped, either by way of department appeal or by revisional authority. Out of that 8 issues, maybe for 3 issues, new order has been passed, redetermined order has been passed, saying that on this 3 issue, you are liable to pay 2 lakhs. You are not eligible for the dropping of demand, which the previous officer has issued. In such situation, as you have applied for amnesty, paid 1 lakh for 2 issues. Now in this 3 issue, you are additionally liable to pay 2 lakhs. Now, as this new order has been issued, determining additional liability, you would be eligible for this scheme only and only when you pay this additional liability which is determined. Now the question which may arise, this additional liability may have happened after you have applied for scheme and maybe 31st March 2025 has over. So you might think now how, as I have not made before 31st March 2025, now the scheme will not be applicable to me. Now they have said in such a situation, I will be given extra 3 months to pay the liability from the date of receipt of this revised order. So for 31st March 2025, even though it got lapsed, the moment I receive order from that 3 months will be calculated. But you have to make sure whatever has been payable as per original order, that need to be paid by 31st March. Now with this new revised order, what has been determined, you need to pay within 3 months, but you need to pay only tax, not interest and penalty. If your period is covered under the amnesty scheme and your issue is covered under the amnesty scheme, if both are within the amnesty scheme, period and issue, then that 3 lakh additional liability, I am liable to pay only tax. Interest and penalty waiver will be also there on this additionally determined liability by this revised order. So, though my issue became 2 plus 3, but interest and penalty waiver will also be there for that 3 issue, provided I paid the payment within 3 months. It is the period covered under the scheme and issue is also covered under the scheme. So over here, if you will see, my payment under scheme has one more timeline. Similarly, there is one more situation Now, I said there may be a case I might have been issued consolidated show cause notice or order. Means there it is issued for 4 years. Now, suppose it is issued for first 4 years. 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21. Now, under 128A, I am not eligible for waiver of interest and penalty for 2021. It is only till 1920. So while applying under the scheme, I have to pay full tax amount. So I have to pay full tax amount for all the 4 years. It will arise only and only in the situation where consolidated notice or order is there. So I have to pay for all the 4 years in order to apply for this. Now, 2021, as it is not covered in the scheme, I am liable to pay tax, interest, and penalty. All three I need to pay. So they said while applying the scheme, you pay full tax amount. So I have to pay for all the 4 year tax amount. But interest and penalty for 2021, I am liable to pay once I get my amnesty approved scheme order, that is SPL 05 or SPL 06. When I receive the order of approving my amnesty scheme, then only I am liable to pay interest and penalty for 2021. For that also, they have given a time limit, which is again 3 months, but this time this is 3 months from amnesty order. Another situation, which we said 74 got converted into 73. Now for conversion of 74 to 73, it may take time. So they are saying in that case, even the payment and to apply for scheme, it will be 6 months from the date of issue of redetermined order. So the date my redetermined order will be issued, from that date, my time limit to make the payment and time limit to apply for this scheme will apply. Now we understood who are eligible, and to do that application, what are the conditions to be met and what precaution you need to take. Now while filing the scheme, I have to upload few documents with it. I have to upload self-certified order. Then I have to also attach payment particulars. So over there, this is a mandatory field. So over here, I have to give the disclosure of payment I have made with respect to demand of order or notice. So you can make a small letter and write how you have made the payment for it and upload it here. If I have filed an appeal or writ, then I have to also make sure I attach withdrawal order or withdrawal application while filing the scheme. Now we understood who is eligible. Now let us understand what is excluded. First part I already said, the period which is outside the scheme. It is only for 3 years. If you have received any consolidated SCN or order where it is cover the period which is also outside the scheme, then I am not eligible for only to that period. I will not get waiver of interest and penalty, but I can still apply for amnesty, and for the first 3 years, I can claim the waiver. Another issue is earnest refund. If my notice or order involve earnest refund, I am not eligible under this scheme. Third part which they have covered by way of circular clarification, saying about the fact that if my notice or order involve only the case of interest and penalty, and that is due to belated filing of return or belated reporting of any supply in the return, then they are saying amnesty scheme will not be eligible. But it is only to that extent, means belated filing of return or belated reporting of any supply. In that case only they are saying they will not give me the waiver. In apart from other, even though the notice is only for interest and penalty, this can happen in a situation where at the time when the show cause notice was issued, you paid the tax. Now officer has issued an order determining interest and penalty. Now interest and penalty is not account of this two situation, belated filing or belated reporting. Then also I can apply for a scheme and I can get the waiver of interest and penalty. But if it involves this two issue, then I will not be allowed. But this is only by way of clarification and circular they have given. But if you will read act and rule, there is no mentioning about that. There are exclusion. Earliest refund they have said Pre-adoption scheme, they have said, but belated filing of return or belated reporting of supply is not covered or not excluded under section and rule. So it seems that clarification is going little beyond, but time will say how it will be decided. But if you have the issue, you file it off. Let's see how the officer proceed with it. So we also need to understand what are the forms involved. I will focus more on SPL 02 because as I said, more of the cases will be where we are filing against the order. Okay, so they have also defined who will be taking care of the stage where the case is pending. So if it is at a notice stage, they are saying adjudication officer. If it is at the order stage, then recovery officer will be taking care of the case. Basically, it is the proper officer, jurisdictional officer are the one who are now taking care of this amnesty scheme. As I said, you have to make the payment of tax. You have to make sure you file before 31st March 2025. And if it is a notice stage, payment to be DRC03. If it is an order stage, electronic liability register, which I already showed you, payment toward demand. Now, while applying the scheme also, they have given different form. If it is at a notice stage, I have to file at SPL 01. If it is an order stage, I have to file in SPL 02. Now, let me take you through SPL 02. So over here, again, it is under user service, my application. So over here, they have created a separate tab in drop down, application for a waiver of scheme. Click new application. Now we'll select SPL 0. Now you might ask the question, what would be the case where against an adjudication order, I have filed an appeal before appellate authority, and now appellate authority has also passed an order confirming the demand. While applying under this scheme, you have to see as on the date of application, where are you standing? So let me take a case where it is pending an appeal order. Means I have filed an appeal. After filing an appeal, the order has been passed against me. So as order has been passed, SPL 02 will come into picture. I will create whether demand order is issued through GST. So today date, department is following, all the orders are getting uploaded. If you have received any order which is not there on GST portal, you can write one small letter requesting for upload of order to the office. They are doing those upload. If still they don't do it, option is there for both. I can select no also if order is not uploaded, and I can select yes also if order is uploaded. But you can do one small letter and try to get it all uploaded on GST portal, because then every record will be there with the department also and with you also, and in the system also. So whether demand order is issued, in my case, I'm assuming that it is uploaded on GST. So I selected yes. Whether an appeal application against the order. Now the situation which I took, I have received appeal order. Now against that appeal order, I have not filed an appeal before tribunal because tribunal is not formed. So as on today date, it is pending at appeal order. So whether an appeal has been filed against this answer will be no, because I have not filed to tribunal appeal. You should not consider that against an adjudication order, I have filed first appeal. But today date, you are standing at appeal order. With appeal order, I haven't filed any appeal. So it is no. When application, as this is no, it automatically became no. But if it was an adjudication order and I have filed an appeal, first appeal, but appeal order is still not received, then you will select this as yes. The moment you will select this yes, you will get an option whether you have filed and withdrawal of application. You will select if anyhow you have to file withdrawal of application if you have filed an appeal. So you have to select yes, and you have to also file withdrawal application. Now, High Court, Supreme Court, you have to see this. If appeal is filed, then it will be yes. Appeal is not filed, then it will be no. Then you have to select your section, which will be 73, because the moment you will select 74, it will automatically show the warning. It was showing, I don't know why this was showing. It automatically show the warning that 74 is not eligible. Now, it can be also a case, it has been seen in few cases, 73, 74, both has been merged and they have issued one show cause notice or one order. So you can select both based on the case for which you are applying, based on the stage where it is pending. You have to select your form and you have to do the application. My saying not covered under 75, 75 is basically 74 converted into 73. Whether demand issue include earnings, that you have to check. I am selecting no in my case. See, here warning came. Error but not cover are not eligible for waivers. So that's why automatically, but I don't know why they given. So 73, the moment I will select 73, it will allow me. So next, then I just need to select down my order. Here every detail will auto populate. I can select. Here I can select my order number. I have to select whether there is any, if it is against where appeal has been filed, then yes, no. In my case, it is no. Automatically it got span. If it is with order, appeal has been filed, then you select yes. Over here, you have to upload whether withdrawal order you have received or not. Based on that, you have to file, because if you have not received withdrawal order, then you have to make sure within 1 month of receipt of withdrawal order, you submit that. Anyhow, this amnesty scheme will allow you, portal will allow you to move forward. Now, over here, if I have any demand for which I am applying, so this I will take in my example. Okay, now the payment I have made, it will auto populate in this table 4. I am filing against an adjudication order. So over here, I have not made any pre-deposit and all. If I would have made pre-deposit, in this it will automatically come. If pre-deposit is there, here payment made will automatically show. Okay, I don't need to do any extra effort. So this much only I have to fill. Then as I told you, I have to upload self-certify order, withdrawal application or withdrawal order, proof of payment I have to show. Now this, if you will notice, they are saying adjusted to DRC 03A. Now in past, there has been a cases where the order was not uploaded on GST portal. Even if order was uploaded on GST portal, people for filing an appeal has made a payment through DRC 03. So as you have made a payment to DRC 03 against an order, they have given me a facility for form DRC 3A to link it with the order. Okay. If that situation is there, I have to make one attachment giving them the description of the payment made through DRC 03 with respect to this order. So I will draft one small letter of the payment made, will attach DRC 03 with it and will upload over here. So this is for 3A. where payment is made through DRC 03 to be adjusted against the order. But you will notice it will also apply where you have made payment through appeal form only, which is provided on GST portal. Then also it need to be done. See, it is a red mark. So document need to be uploaded mandatory. Now, when you have done payment through appeal form, there will be no DRC 03. This data will be auto-populated over here, but this attachment is mandatory. So what you can do is, you can draft one small letter saying that payment already made, which is duly reflecting in table 4 with respect to this amnesty scheme of the full tax amount. So one letter saying how much is the demand made in the order of the tax amount and how the payment has been made of that tax amount. You can give the description and also refer to table 4 saying that all payment made and also auto populated over here, and you can upload that letter over here. Now, any other document also I will discuss when it can come. In my opinion, those all situation I will discuss. These are all click which you are basically saying that you have not filed an appeal, or if you have filed an appeal, you have filed a withdrawal application, or in case your case is pick for department appeal or revision, you are giving and saying that yes, I will make an additional liability. So all this disclosure you have to give declaration, and accordingly you have to save and file the this SPL 02. Now there it can be a case the application you made, officer might feel you are not eligible for amnesty. If he is of the opinion that you are not eligible, he has to issue a show cause notice. So more or less this amnesty scheme proceeding also somehow they have made similar to adjudication proceeding, but limiting it only to check whether you are eligible for scheme, yes or no. That much only they will check. They will not check what is tax payable. Means basically the issue involved will not be decided on merit. The only thing which will be decided is whether you are eligible for amnesty, yes or no. So if officer feel that you are not eligible for amnesty scheme, first he can't directly reject. He will issue you a notice. And for everything in GST, the best part is for everything there is a deadline, there is a prescribed form. This ensure that everything goes as per the process. See, if things goes in the process, justice itself take care to some extent. Because if people follow the process, follow the timeline, everything will go as planned. So if officer feel that you are not eligible for scheme, he has to issue one notice. So he will give you an opportunity. Notice need to be issued in SPL 03. Then you have to submit your reply in SPL 04. If he, after issuing notice, or in the first instant only, when the SPL 02 is applied, he feel you are eligible for scheme, he will pass an order in SPL 05. But if he feel you are not eligible for scheme, he will reject an order in SPL 07. So there are different forms for acceptance and rejection. Acceptance in 05, rejection in 07. And everything has a time bond. And another added advantage is deem approval. So they are saying if department didn't take action of issuance of notice, or even after issuance of notice didn't issue an order within the time prescribed, it will be assumed to be deemed approved. So that is also there in this amnesty scheme part. Now, what we will do if officer reject my application, even after giving the notice, he didn't consider that I am eligible, he passed an order. Now they are saying with this, you have an opportunity till you can go and file an appeal. So I can go ahead and file an appeal against this rejection order in APL 01. The normally when we file first appeal order. So APL 01. Now appeal officer will decide. So appellate officer will decide whether I am eligible for scheme. Need to keep in mind this is only determination whether I am eligible for scheme or not. So appeal officer will now check whether I am eligible for scheme, yes or no. If he feel I am eligible, he will issue a accepting order in 06. If you feel I'm not eligible, then APL 04, rejecting that I'm not eligible for the scheme. So this is basically the procedure. So if as an assessee or taxpayer decide that I want to go and appeal, this appeal I am discussing under amnesty scheme, means where the order has been issued saying that I am not eligible for amnesty in SPL 07, then I can go against the appeal. So if I decided that I will file an appeal against the rejection order of scheme, then I can go ahead it. If it is allowed, appeal officer allow me, then SPL 06. If appeal officer disallow, reject, say that no, I am not eligible for scheme, then what will happen? So if I have filed an appeal before the original order, means against which I am going under amnesty. So if I have filed an appeal with respect to the order I have went into amnesty, then my original appeal will get restored. But I have to give an undertaking saying that I will not go for appeal, or I am withdrawing the appeal proceeding under amnesty and in SPL 08. Okay, so I can go ahead if my appeal was already filed. As you know, when I was discussing, I said I have to also submit withdrawal application. If I have filed an appeal against which I am going under scheme. So as I have filed withdrawal due to amnesty, they are saying if I was found not to be eligible, my original appeal will get restored. So that's why it is advisable, even though you are planning to go for amnesty, do file appeal. I'm not saying appeal under amnesty against the order for which you have chosen to file an amnesty. Again, those order also you should go, because nobody know what will happen. You went, everything was as per you was simple, you were duly eligible, but somehow something went wrong and your application got rejected. If you would not have filed an appeal before the original order, then time limit to file an appeal got over. There is nothing prescribed under amnesty, or there is nothing prescribed in time limit which says that the time which is taken under amnesty will not be considered. So 3 months might have been got over. So it's always advisable you file an appeal also, go for amnesty. Now, while going for amnesty, withdraw the appeal so that you will have an option. Like I took one example to explain you that where I file an under amnesty for 2 issues for 1 lakh. Now revision happened, they determine I am liable to pay additional 3 lakh. It may be a case now I want to fight my original order instead of going under amnesty because my cost has got increased. It became 5 lakh now. So if I would have filed an appeal and I was fighting, then I have still a chance. If things somewhere gone wrong under amnesty, my original appeal will be there to safeguard me. Now, again coming to this, so if suppose under amnesty appeal I didn't file, then also automatically my original appeal or my original case will get restored. You have to keep in mind, as I said, everything is time bound under GST. So to take the benefit of what has been provided under the Act, we have to make sure we follow the procedure prescribed there. So make sure for 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, whichever stage it is, you would have filed an appeal. Because when this scheme was announced, 1920 was due for appeal. So there may be a case people might not have filed an appeal. Now nothing can be done because it all have become time barred. So you can't file an appeal before original order. But time and again it will be decided because it may be a case people may go before High Court saying that I went for amnesty. Now they disallow me. I don't have time limit to file under original. They are rejecting on being time barred. Let's see how it will be decided. But as of now, they haven't given any exclusion for time limit to file an appeal if amnesty got rejected. Now with this, we will take few illustration to understand while applying under amnesty scheme. Now I am talking specifically from 128A point of view, waiver of interest and penalty. Now there may be a case when you are applying for amnesty scheme. Suppose this three situation or three cases are there. One is incentive, one is sale of fixed asset, one is ITC under section 16(4). So if you will notice, this belongs to 1819, and for 1819, for 16(4), I have a benefit. Okay. Now, as I am applying under amnesty scheme, now the question which arises, though for 16(4), I have a benefit, and if I am applying for amnesty scheme, even for 16(4), I am liable to pay the tax. Because if you will see over here, my total tax demand is 238. To apply for scheme, I have to pay full tax amount. So do I need to pay 238 or can I exclude 16(4)? So there is a specific clarification. While applying for amnesty scheme also, 16(4) benefit will be specifically extended. So I am not liable to pay 16(4) tax. I am only liable to pay only issue 1 and issue 2, the total of which comes to 1,03,000, which I need to pay before applying the scheme. And the moment my scheme get approved, so while if you will see in form, like I was showing, in this form, when your order gets selected, here there is a specific part 3B which deals with 16(5). In my case, it is not involved, that's why table is not coming. So here it will specifically come for 16(4) cases. Okay. If it's involved any demand of which is in relation to 16(4), which is now eligible based on 16(5) and 6, here one table will come. There I can fill those details. So here I can fill those in table that it will automatically exclude from total tax demand over here. Over here, if suppose I am liable to pay 12 lakh, here if I fill 4 lakh, automatically it will show I am liable to pay 8 lakhs. And in this, the 8 lakh tax which I have paid will be reflecting over here. So in 3B, I need to furnish. It will come, table will come. This order doesn't involve, that's why it is not coming. So table will automatically come. Over here, I will furnish my 16(4) detail for which I am eligible for the benefit. Automatically 10 lakh minus 2 lakhs. On 8 lakh, I am liable to pay the taxes, and interest and penalty waiver will automatically apply once my approval comes. Now, in case earnest refund is there. Now, I told you earnest refund is specifically excluded from the scheme. So, I need to pay the tax on the same, and tax need to be paid in cash. So now over here, see again 3 issues I have taken. My total tax demand is 238. Here, before applying for scheme, I have to make sure I pay 238. So full amount of I have to pay out of 238, 135 need to be specifically to be paid in cash. For balance to issue 1 and 2, I have the option to use the credit. I can by using credit, I can pay it. But for 3, I have to pay in cash only. So this whole tax amount of 238, I need to pay before applying for scheme. Fine. But as earnest refund is outside the scheme, I'm also liable to pay interest and penalty. And as I discussed while discussing the payment time limit. So 238 I have to do before filing the application or before 31st March. But interest and penalty, I have extended time limit to pay. What is that extended? They are saying you pay once your scheme get approved. Means once I get SPL 05 or once I get SPL 06. So if I get the SPL 05, which is the proper officer, SPL 06 is an appeal officer. So once they pass the order in my favor that I am eligible for scheme, then I am liable to pay interest and penalty, and I have to pay that within 3 months of approving of the scheme. That is within 3 months from the date of SPL 05 or SPL 06. But tax I need to pay now only at the time of making the application. For that, extended time limit will not fall. Now, another illustration where multiple periods are there. Now, if you will see, as I said, there can be a case where I might have received consolidated order, means for 4 years, 5 years together. So in that scenario also, I can apply under scheme. There is no bar. But while determining the applicability of the scheme, only the period covered under the scheme will be considered and waiver will be given for the period covered under the scheme. For the period outside the scheme, I have to pay the full amount. So let us understand this example. So 17-18, I am available for waiver. 18-19, yes. 19-20 also I am eligible for waiver. But 20-21 being outside the scheme, I am not eligible for waiver of interest and penalty. Now over here, what I need to pay before filing the application? Sorry, what I need to pay? I have to pay in 17-18 only tax if I am applying for amnesty. 18-19, what I have to pay? Only tax. 19-20 also only tax. But 20-21 being outside, I have to make sure I pay tax, interest, and penalty. All three need to be paid. Now, when need to be paid? Tax payment I need to do before filing the application or 31st March, whichever is earlier. Tax I need to pay before filing of application or 31st March. But interest and penalty, like 17-18, 18-19, 19-20, the waive off. But 20-21, which is not under the scheme, I have to pay within 3 months, again, date of approval of the scheme. I have to pay interest and penalty. So you have to keep in mind that extended time limit is only with respect to interest and penalty, not for tax. While making an application, full tax amount need to be paid, even though period is outside or issue is outside. In both the scenario, you have to pay. Plus, I can't do MCQ. Means I can't choose that if I have, like over here, I have 3 issues. I can't assume that first 1 or 2 I will go, third I will not go. That also I can't do. I can't opt for part issue. I have to go for total issue, total demand. I can't go for part issue or I can't choose part period or part tax amount. If I am opting for this scheme, I have to opt for full notice or full order. I don't have an option to bifurcate into 1, 2, 3, whatever may be. Now, this is another example of multi-period, but incorporating the issue of 16.4. Now, if you will notice, when I was discussing, I specifically said that 16.4 is for 4 years. Okay. So even though my 2021 is outside the amnesty scheme, that is, it is outside waiver of interest and penalty, but 16.4 for 2021 is still eligible. Okay. Now look at this example. My total tax demand, including 16.4 for first year is 378, second year is 738, 2021, which is outside the scheme, is 10 lakh. Now the tax which I need to pay for each period, if you will notice, I have covered 243, which is basically excluding 16.4, means minus 135 here. Issue 1 and 2 total 243. Similarly, again 1920, 253. But 2021 also you will see I have covered only issue 1. Issue 3 I didn't take it because 16.4 is still 2021. So even for 8,65,000 also I am eligible for the benefit under 16.4, not under waiver of interest and penalty. Okay, because if you will see this table, wherever it is applicable and it is getting auto-populated, it will come for 4 years, not for 3 years. Because 16.4 is extended for first 4 years. So over here, that's why my tax payment for 2021, instead of 10 lakh, it is showing 2 lakh 34, even though outside the waiver of interest and penalty. And all this tax payment I have to do before applying for scheme. or before 31st March 2025. And as I said, 18, 19, 19, 20, I will get the waiver. For 2021, I am not eligible for waiver. So only for issue 1, 234, I am liable to pay interest and penalty. On 234, it's not interest and penalty is not coming total 234. On 234 tax amount, I am liable to pay interest and penalty. And I have to do that again within 3 months of acceptance of my amnesty scheme, SPL 05 or SPL 06. Now, in this one more point I want to highlight. Now, if you have any issue for which you are eligible for 16(4) or issue which is outside, like earnest refund, or a period which is outside the scheme, I will advise draft one letter, one small representation, and upload it in any other document stating the facts, basically, that period involving this is the total demand, divide into the period also, that 18, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21. This much belongs to 16(4), minus 16(4), this much comes the tax waiver. Why I am saying there is a reason. See, we don't know how the officer is going to read, whether they will be reading fully. And another thing is quantification issue. As I discussed, if you will notice what they are deciding, they are just deciding eligibility. Even at the appeal stage, appeal officer is also going to determine the eligibility. Now the question which arises, if there is some error in quantification, who is going to take care? To make sure those quantification error doesn't happen, you yourself calculate interest, you yourself say penalty. I'm not saying you to pay I'm not saying you to pay when applying for this scheme, interest and penalty, but I am asking you to quantify interest and penalty so that officer also give the figure which actually come. Because it can be a case you might have done while giving you SPL 05 or SPL 06, issuing you the amnesty approval with the quantification of interest and penalty payable, if any, been period outside or issue outside. You would have an opportunity that where you can quantify so that officer will also understand he got 1 lakh, why I am getting 120 or 2 lakhs, whatever may be the scenario. So you will have one opportunity. So it's better in letter you also do your quantification so that even though eligible for amnesty, but due to his wrong calculation, and as of now there is no application whether it can be rectified or not. Like in order, if they do error, we can go ahead and do rectification application. But for amnesty quantification issue, as of now, I don't know how it will work. But such situation doesn't arise, so it's better you drop your letter with quantification if you all have any period 16(4) involvement issue outside, so that quantification does not result into amnesty denial, or you yourself leave amnesty because his wrong quantification showing too much higher amount. So it's better you draft one letter, and this is what I was saying, you can upload in any other document, which will work as your base. So that while discussing with officer, you will be also knowing what is payable, what needs to be done. Now, and this is another illustration. Like I told you, it may be a case department may went for appeal. It may be also a case your order may be picked for revision. So after the SCM issue 29, order was passed with determination of tax of 12 lakhs. Now you decided let's go for 12 lakhs under amnesty. You did your application, you filed it off of 12 lakh. Now this order might be picked by the officer for appeal or review. And based on that, it might be decided that now you are liable not 12 lakh, 17 lakh. Now, if you still want to opt for scheme or continue under scheme, you have to make sure this differential 17 minus 12 you pay. 17 minus 12, this 5 lakh you have to pay. And as I said, you have to pay within 3 months, but it's not a sanction order, determined order. So within 3 months of appeal order or department appeal order or revisional order, you have to say. So 11 Feb, 11 May, you have to pay 5 lakh. If you don't pay, then this amnesty scheme benefit will not be eligible. Even if they have issued you amnesty scheme approval order, it will become null and void. And then you will be liable to pay interest and penalty. And these are the reason I am saying it's better to draft one small letter saying what quantification, whatever explanation you want to give. And it's also better to file an appeal also parallelly. So if anything went wrong, you will have one backup for you. Now, we have covered all the illustration and all, whichever situation which may arise while filing. Now, let us understand the issue which you may face while filing an amnesty scheme. Now, first part which I am covering in the issue is manual appeal filing. Now, there may be a case order not uploaded. There may be a case appeal file manually. How you can apply for amnesty? Very simple. They said you have to follow the same procedure. If you will notice the first part, it says whether uploaded or not. So select no. So even though order appeal not appearing on GST portal doesn't matter, I have to make an application online only. This I am discussing for interest and penalty waiver. So I have to file an online. So I will select no and accordingly I will move. So if I select no, you will notice I have the option to manually enter the order number. So manually entry, I can do manual entry of order. So I will write my order number, order date, and section will be obviously 73. You have to select. And accordingly, same process. Whatever the demand and all, you have to fill now everything manually. And you have to attach your self-certified order over here. So I can do manual application. Now another question which you can raise, if I have filed manually, so I would have done DRC03. So DRC03 will now pre-deposit get auto-populated if I do online portal. If I do through DRC03, it will not auto-populate. So what I should do? Now there is a form called DRC03A. Again, user service, my application. Again, I will select my adjustment through new application. The moment I do this, all my payment to DRC03 will start over here. So if you have done, you give your AR reference number over here, it will start auto-populate and you can start doing your adjustment over here. Okay. Sorry, the RC3A will be only when it is filed the RC3 and manual application. And over here, if it is not uploaded, you will go over here, my application. Again, waiver. Yes. So over here, I will select the order manual entry. Okay, I will give the number and all. Now over here, I can select my DRC03. Yeah. So I can keep on selecting because it can be a case against an order. There may be 3, 4 multiple DRC03 and vice versa also. Means one DRC03 adjusted against multiple order. So I can keep selecting. See, it got auto added here. So in manual also, I have the option to file online. DRC03 payment, I will add here only. One by one, I have to keep selecting and it will keep adding one. So over here, I don't need to do 3A in case of manual appeal filing. And this multiple DRC03 against one order, I just now discussed. If I have multiple DRC03 against one order, okay, so 3A is DRC03 wise. So if I have 3 DRC03 against one order, I have to execute 3 DRC03A to link with that order. It's that simple. I just need to go to user service, my application. I have to select and I can keep linking. But it will happen one by one DRC03. So I have to select my first DRC03, link with first order. Then second DRC03, again link with that order. So in that way I can do. Now you can say my one DRC03 I have used for multiple order. So again one DRC03 order will be selected. If you have paid 10 lakh, this order is of 2 lakh. Adjustment will happen of 2 lakh. Balance 8 lakh, which is still lying in DRC 03, you can use against another order also. So they have given that facility. Now, appeal is limited to eligibility of the scheme. This I discussed that there can be a quantification error and all. And no, it has not been specified that whether appeal officer will be discussing that or not. Now, another classic example is when I have been issued one order for 4 years, but you know that with the order, they have to also issue the form DRC 07. That is a summary of order. Now, it has been noticed that they issued one order covering 4 years, but 4 DRC 07. Okay. So, year wise, they have given. Now, the moment I go for application over here, what I have noticed is they go by DRC 07 reference number. So, order is one consolidated, but DRC 07 is 4 years. Now, you might think, let me apply for first 3 years, which is covered under amnesty 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20. Anyhow, it is linked to DRC 07. And 2021, I will go for appeal. You can't do, in my opinion. If an order is consolidated, you can't break the period just because you have received 4 DRC 07. You have to go for full order only. So, but when doing an application, amnesty application, it will go 4 application because of 4 DRC 07 linking which is happening in GST portal function. Now, there may be a case if technical issue this is that pre-deposit may not reflect while filing an application, but if you will go to service, payment toward demand, and if any payment is made against this order, it will reflect over here. Okay, and even over here. So over here, I can give my demand and reference number. See over here, as I have filed an appeal against this order, it is showing. Okay, 1365, 654, 654, 12906. So over here, the pre-deposit which I have made, it will definitely going to show over here. Now again this, if I go for application, you will notice it is showing 12906, 12906. Here my gross demand is 1356. After adjusting with pre-deposit, it is coming 12906. Now you see my application when I do. It's not getting auto. I don't know why it is, maybe some issues happening at the end, but it will get auto populated and it will not show gross amount over here, amount demanded in the order. It will show after pre-deposit 12,000, not 13,000. So over here, the demand which get auto populated is 12,000, not 13,000. Okay. And here pre-deposit will not be showing that 600 rupees which has been paid. Even though you pay 12, but when you will do payment toward demand, it will only show 12,000. You pay that 12,000 and while approve here, proof of payment. Over here, you give those description. You attach the screenshot showing the total tax payment which has been made against this order. Sometimes it happens pre-deposit doesn't get auto-populated over here, but still you can apply for application by writing those in letter. Now, another issue which may happen is error in total tax. Now, we have noticed when the officer issue order and all, form BRC 07 summary order, they do totaling error and all. In such situation, if you have any of this situation, it's better first get rectification done. Try to get the rectify order upload with the correct tax amount, which is actually payable as per the order determined. You can apply for rectification. If you feel after filing the rectification office has not done anything or is not doing anything, you can write in letter about the error which is done in totaling and then apply for the scheme. Now the question you may ask whether for transitional credit can I apply for scheme? In clarification, they have specifically mentioned that for transitional credit also you can go for this waiver of interest and penalty. But you have to keep in mind Supreme Court extended the date. Here period is only 1718, 1819, 1920. So if transitional credit issue for notice or order you have received for this 3 years under 73, then only you can. If it is outside this 3 year, then you can't. Then late fee redemption. Now, if you will see, waiver is for interest or penalty. It is not for late fee or redemption fine. Even e-way bill penalty 129 is not covered. What is covered is section 73. 73 means penalty which can come under 122 or 125. But it cannot include penalty under 129 or 130. Confiscation or penalty for e-way bill violation. So for late fee, redemption, e-way bill, it is not applicable under this scheme. Belated return and belated reporting, I have already covered. Now, application once filed, whether can be withdrawn because if situation turns against or something happened. As you know, if any additional liability and all is there, if you don't make payment, this scheme automatically become null and void. So your choice, you choose not to pay, so it will become null and void and your original appeal will get restored. I already discussed whether we can opt for part issue or part payer. Answer is no. With this, we have come to the end of our amnesty scheme part. Now I will hand it over to Hitesh to take over for ISD.
Thank you, Ashika. And friends, I know it's like a heavy topic. What we have done is we have compiled some of the points which Ashika has mentioned, just summarized into a simple doc, and that doc is given in the link. This session is definitely recorded. You will get a copy of the session for your reference. Sum and substance, I would only say, take a look at all the cases for the first 3 years. See if the scheme is applicable. Never leave an opportunity. Even if you have an iota of doubt, I would always say fight. Having a fighting spirit is always good. If you think that the order is being issued under section 74 and this is not a case of the fraud, fight for it, get the order converted to section 73 and opt for amnesty scheme. One point which Ashika clearly mentioned is this scheme is definitely not going to be applicable if it's a belated payment of taxes. That is one point you should definitely make note of, is if the payment of taxes is filed late, self-assessed taxes are filed late, you cannot opt this scheme for waiver of interest. This is one point because you have a demand. Even if your matter is under appeal, don't worry, you can go and fight for your amnesty scheme. You can show that the withdrawal of appeal you are doing. As Ashika mentioned, that even the amnesty scheme may get rejected. Even if the amnesty scheme is rejected, don't get disheartened. You still have an appeal to file under 107. You can go, and if the appellate authority finds merit in your case, The proper officer has issued SPL 05, the appellate authority would issue SPL 06, but still you will win the case. And one other key point which Ashika mentioned, the payment of tax has to happen before March. The payment can happen through cash or credit. This is the another thing. If we have any input tax credit, you can use ITC for making payment of this. The only hitch there is if the liability is arising out of the RCM demand which has been created by the officer, RCM necessarily has to be paid by cash. So it will be paid by cash. The last point which I would like to again give as a caution, mere payment of taxes is not the celebration period. That's a primary precondition to start. After having paid the taxes, you necessarily have to file a relief. So if you're not filing your SPL 02, that is 99% of the cases, you would be filing SPL 02. If you're not even filing that, then you lost the case again. So I would again notice that, okay, people think that, yes, I have paid the taxes, am I not getting the benefit? So these are the key things, and very detailed in length Ashika has discussed. Great efforts. Thank you, Ashika. Let's move to the next part of the discussion. Before that, Ashika, are there any questions that needs to be addressed?
There are. Should I take now, Vinay?
So there's one, is there a time limit for filing the waiver? Yes, the time limit for payment is March. For waiver filing is June. We have received an order with a demand of 1 lakh towards RCM and applicable interest. I have paid RCM in 3B and claimed input credit. In such case, how to adjust the liability while filing the application, as DRC is no DRC 03 for DRC 03A. So here you have to make a reply to the DRC 01 stating that you have, okay, by the way, you have received an order, not even a show cause notice. Manvit, you have to get appeal of your order done and get it resolved. What do I do if the order ID is not displayed in SPL 02? So this is one practical issue. Ashika, what is the answer do you have for this?
So if order is not displayed, they can go ahead and file online application. As I showed in online application, by selecting order ID, they give a drop down box of manual. So they can select manual and then they can write their order number and accordingly proceed.
Yeah.
They have to fill everything manually, but application will happen on.
Next, Ashwini, when to file SPL1, SPL2? Ashwini, I've shared you a small link. It is having situations when SPL1 and SPL2. Please go through. Mohan is asking, can I request for a refund as we already paid and reversed the ITC in case of 16 subsection 4, 18, 19, 19, 20. So Ashika, they're asking, see, can they get a relief under 16.5 or 6 for 16.4 payment?
Sir, refund legally not allowed. Now the question which arises, how you have made the payment? It is that what against a notice you have written, but if it is a 73 case, you would be at order stage. So if an order, you have done payment through DRC 03, that we need to check. If you have done through DRC 03, you have given the specification, how you have done, accordingly it can be planned whether refund procedure can be followed or not. Prima facie based on provision, answer is no.
Yeah. So the right answer is you don't get. So the advice again I always give is, when you believe that you are right, the officer believes he is right and you believe you are right, fight for your case. File an appeal, fight for your case. So there are definitely the first appellate authority wouldn't let it go. So even he is a creature under the administrative law. So they would believe that their view is right, but you have tribunal, high courts, So you can always fight for your case. So I would always recommend that when there is a doubt, both are possible, fight for your case. Always make sure you fight for your case. So whenever you think there is a chance of success, even 1% is there, I think you should fight for that case. That 1%, why should you leave it? Anything you apparent on record, you collected the taxes and not paid, 76 is there. I am not suggesting the cases where you believe there is a tax liability, then go ahead and pay the tax liability. When you believe there is no tax liability, or when you believe that ITC is eligible, fight for your case, and we are here to support you. Yeah, in above RCM case, rectification is not possible as the order is older one. Yeah, taxes you have paid, nothing can be done. Hitesh, can you see if you can share the screen and it's possible? Yeah, as Hitesh coming up with his presentation, the next important is Input Service Distributor, so-called ISD, Section 20 and 21 of the CGST Act, which talks about it. It's not that ISD is new in the law. It is not that it has just, it has come. ISD was there from the beginning. Many people have not complied. And that's where we got a circular saying that, okay, whatever which is done so far, not done, I am pardoning, but effective from 1st April, please do it. Sum and substance, what is an ISD? Is an input service distributor. So it's only input service and not input goods. In case of goods, movement physically visible, Schedule 1 is given. But services, there's chances that everything is common, something is common, and I have multiple registrations. ISD is applicable only when there are more than one GST registration, the ISD is applicable. Given that the ISD has come, I have 3-4 registrations. Do I do ISD? My answer is no. Not every case the ISD would be applicable. Majority of the cases ISD would be applicable. Yeah. So at least the large corporates, now definitely you should have an ISD registration and get the ISD compliances starting from 1st April. You should advise any of the clients, whether large corporates, large transaction, especially in the service industry, you should advise on the ISD. Let's quickly go through on the procedures of ISD. Again, if any questions that you have, put it in the chat box. Hitesh, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Now, coming to the topic of input service distributor. First, we need to understand that what is an input service distributor. Input service distributor has been defined in the GST law using section 2 subsection 61. Now I have divided the definition into 3 parts, as you can see on the screen, where the first part states that ISD is an office of supplier of goods or services or both which receives tax invoices. First keyword in the definition is the word office. Now coming to the second part, towards receipt of input services. So it is very specifically mentioned that ISD will only be applicable when it is a receipt of input services. It will not be applicable if it is a receipt of inputs or capital goods, including invoices in respect of services liable to tax under subsection 3 or subsection 4 of section 9. This was the definition pre-Finance Bill 2025. In the Finance Bill 2025, the words mentioned in the green have been proposed to be added of this Act or subsection 3 and subsection 4 or section 5 of IGST Act 2017. So by reading this paragraph of the definition, we come to know that ISD is applicable when it is a receipt of input services, including RCM, within the same state if it is under subsection 3 and subsection 4 or section 9. But now with effect from 1st April 2025, even IGST RCM is being allowed in ISD cases. The next para states for or on behalf of the distinct persons referred to in section 25. Now, distinct person word has been used. This is another important part where we need to check that if I am an entity and I have several registrations throughout the country, then all the registrations which are there under the same pen, that will come under the scope of distinct person. The related parties like holding subsidiary or holding associate, these will not come under the scope of distinct persons. So when we read combined the definition, it gives us an impression that their ISD is an office of supplier of goods or services or both which receives tax invoices towards input services including RCM. Pre-budget it was only the intrastate RCM, but now it has been proposed to be interstate RCM as well, and for on behalf of the distinct persons referred to in section 25. And ISD's sole purpose is to distribute the input tax credit in respect of all such invoices in the manner as has been provided in section 20 of the CGST Act. Now, when I use the term office, it specifically implies that I do not need to have a separate office for ISD registration. The registration for HO, which I have already in possession, the same address can be used for the ISD registration as well. Yes, the GST registration number of the HO and the GST registration number of the ISD will definitely differ, as the taxpayer type will be regular taxpayer and ISD respectively. But it need not be the case that you need to have a separate office for an ISD registration. Now, very similar to ISD, there is another concept called cross charge. So, let us first understand what this cross charge means. Has it been defined under the law? Cross charge has not been separately defined under GST Act. So, how do we understand what actually cross charge means? So, picking bits and pieces of the Act and the rules and combining all together, we get the concept of cross charge from basically these 4 sections. The first section is a levy section, section 9, whereby GST is levied upon taxable supply of goods or services. Subsequent to that comes section 7(1)(c), which refers to activities specified in schedule 1 to the Act, whereby where even if the consideration is not involved in the transaction, still it is deemed to be a supply. Next, we come to entry 2 to schedule 1, which states that supply of goods or services to a related person or distinct person specified under section 25 of the Act, whether or not without involving consideration, but in the course of furtherance of business. So if you are supplying any goods or any services to your distinct person or related person, and even if you are not charging any consideration, such transaction will also be covered under the scope of supply by virtue of entry 2 to schedule 1. And corresponding section where distinct persons and related persons have been defined, section 25 subsection 4 and section 25 subsection 5, where the law has given us the definition of distinct persons very clearly. So in cases where a business is having multiple GSTINs throughout the country, they may charge expenses internally via cross charge. This cross charge concept has come only in the GST era. But if you see the ISD concept, it was also existing in the pre-GST era, even in case of service tax and central excise. ISD was in existence then also, but the concept of cross charge, this internal billing within the multiple branches of a same unit, has evolved in the GST era only. Next, cross charge does cover cross charge of common inputs, input services and capital goods between distinct persons as well as the related parties. What is important to understand here that ISD used to cover only input service, but in case of cross charge, even if you are getting a even if you are acquiring some goods which is for the common benefit of all the branches, you can internally bill within your branches and generate revenue. Now, for cross charge to become applicable and how to go about the procedure of cross charge, the very important aspect which comes is the question of valuation. How do we value these cross charge transactions? What should be the appropriate value which should be allocated to each of these cross charge scenarios? So, in order to understand, again we have to move to bits and pieces of the acts and the rules and to understand from where we need to derive the valuation pertaining to transactions which involve cross charge. Very basic valuation section is being provided in section 15 subsection 1 of the CGST Act, whereby the transaction value is considered to be the price which is paid or payable, and where the price is the sole consideration, but that says where two parties are not related to each other. So in case, so 15.1, the provisions given in 15.1 will not become applicable in case of cross charge, because cross charge is applicable both to distinct and related persons. Moving forward, when we read section 15 subsection 4, it specifies that in case where the valuation cannot be determined in terms of provisions as mentioned in 15.1, we need to determine the valuation as may be prescribed. So the prescribed rules, when we move to the rules, it comes under rule 28 of the CGST rules 2017. On perusal of these rules, we find that they have provided different scenarios whereby the valuation can be determined. In first case, they have said that the open market value can be considered to be the value for such supply between distinct persons when no consideration has been charged. In the second case, they say that in case the open market value is not readily available with you, then you can use the value of like goods or services for the purpose of cross charge valuation. In case, and again, if they say that if both the cases are not applicable, then you have to proceed towards rule 30 and rule 31 of the CGST rules in that order. Now, many business entities initially implemented cross charge where they had several GSTINs under the same pen. Some of them issued tax invoices internally, some of them did not issue any invoices internally. So very recently in 2023, the CBIC came up with a circular whereby it actually clarified lot many questions which were pending in front of the taxpayers pertaining to this cross charge and ISD. The relevant circular number, as you can see on the screen, is 119 bar 11 bar 2023, dated 17 July 2023. It was a very welcome step from the CBIC because most of the major queries were clarified through this circular. The first and the foremost issue which the circular actually clarified was whether ISD is mandatory or optional. Very specifically in the circular, they had clarified that ISD is not mandatory to distribute ITC received by the HO attributable to one or all branch offices through ISD. So even in case a head office is receiving a input service which is actually attributable to each of the branches, or which is the ITC of which should actually move to each of the branches or some of the branches, even if it is not being done by the mechanism as prescribed by ISD under section 20, it is not an issue at all. Now, secondly, they clarified that the issue which was posted in front of the council was, can head office issue tax invoice under section 31 to branch offices? for common input service received from a third party. The very common example if we take for this kind of a transaction would be the statutory audit. In case of statutory audit, if the auditor bills on a consolidated basis to the HO, then the HO's responsibility becomes that it distributes the ITC which it has received from a third party auditor to all its branches in an appropriate manner. So the how will it distribute? Can it internally generate the invoices to its branch office? The circular clarified, yes, it can be done. Now coming to another clarification, the second aspect of the clarification. This clarification was given pertaining to an invoice received from a third party vendor. Thus, next two clarifications which the circular gave was pertaining to the internally generated services, where recipient is eligible for full ITC and where the head office has raised any invoice to the branch office. So, in the first case, they have clarified that yes, if there has been any internally generated services within the organization and those services has been rendered by the HO to any of its branch offices and an tax invoice has been issued by the HO. In that case, what should be the valuation? They have said that you can definitely refer to the second proviso to Rule 28, which clearly mentions that where if the recipient is eligible for full ITC, the invoice value which you have declared shall be considered as the open market value. In case where the head office has not raised any invoices on the branch office, but it has provided any internally generated services to its branches. So, what shall be the value in those cases? The circular clarified value of such supply may be deemed to be nil in terms of second proviso to Rule 28 of CGST rules. So this was a very welcome clarification which was welcomed gracefully by the industry. Reason being the circular itself is saying even if there has been no invoicing by the head office to the respective branch offices, the open market value will be deemed to be nil and there no tax shall be applicable on such services provided internally. Another important clarification which the circular gave was whether inclusion of employee costs is mandatory or not for the purpose of determining the value of services provided by branch of head office to the branch office when a cross charge invoice is being raised. So they clarified that in respect of internally generated services, it is not mandatory to include employee costs even if the recipient is not eligible for full ITC. Based on these clarifications, although it was a most welcome step taken by the CBIC, there are some more clarifications need to be addressed which have not yet been addressed, like there are the open-ended queries which I have mentioned on this slide. Let's go through these. The valuation mechanism, although they have mentioned where the recipient is eligible for full ITC, they have mentioned the valuation mechanism very broadly and they have also given us the clarity in case head office has raised any invoice on the branch office or in case where head office has not received any invoice on the branch office as well. But in case where the recipient of ITC is not eligible for full ITC, then what should be the valuation? How the valuation should be arrived at? That clarification is still pending. Take an example where one of my branches is not actually into fully supply of taxable goods or services. It is partially taxable, partially exempt as well. So how do I value my cross charge billing in those cases? Now, the second question which comes into the mind is how do I interpret eligibility of full ITC? There might be situations where the branches they take the allocation of ineligible ITC also happens and the branches don't reverse those ITC. So what we do in those circumstances? The third open-ended query which arose in my mind pertaining to this circular was, although you have clarified that ISD is not mandatory, even if you are following the cross-charge billing inside an organization where you have multiple GSTs under the same plan, it is absolutely fine. But in case where neither ISD has been followed nor cross-charge has been followed, there are many people in the country who have still not followed either of the two procedures in the previous years since GST has been implemented. So, how do you really, what will be the consequence in such cases? So, in such cases where like where both cross charge and ISD has been not followed, what will be the consequence? It is not clarified in this circular. And the last question which arose in my mind is like whether depreciation and finance cost needs to be included in valuation of cross charges. They are not clarified on this, although they are very specifically clarified on the employee cost. But barring employee cost, there are certain other costs which also hit the profit and loss account of the company. But whether such costs need to be incurred in the valuation of cross charges or not, clarity is still not available in this matter. Now we'll have a detailed comparison of ISD versus cross charge.
Yes. 1 minute. Okay. Before we proceed further, if you notice, Hitesh was discussing about ISD and cross charge. He discussed both the concept. Now, the reason why he discussed both the concept is this both are being used in industry interchangeably. But that is not the scenario. ISD is a different concept in altogether, and a cross charge is a different concept. And based on the expenses which is there, it need to be decided whether ITC will be applied or a cross charge. Now, when we see why we took ISD as a topic for discussion today, reason being, as we are listening that from 1st April 2025, it is mandatory to follow. So it is important that the step necessary for this has been taken. Now, when we discuss ISD part, you have noticed when he was defining the definition, it says specifically the person who receives services, office basically, who receives services on behalf. So it is talking about receipt from third party where he is receiving, but it belongs to another party. So over here, the concept of ISD comes. Now, it is also important to understand what ISD facility is. Is it a facilitation or it is an obligation? Pre-GST regime also, these are not new, two concepts are not new. Prior to GST also, both of this concept were there, but this were there more of as a facilitation. Because what was happening, there were the cases where HO was incurring expenses, but they were not having any outward supply. So those tax credit was getting either lapsed or accumulated. In order to facilitate smooth flow of credit, ISD concept or cross-charge concept was brought in. But when we come under GST, it has become an obligation. Like they are saying it is a mandatory you have to follow. Now we have to also differentiate when ISD applicable and when cross-charge. So let me divide my expenses. First is where those expenses are received by third party which belongs to used by another party. Like that HO has incurred expenses which he has received from third party, but it actually been consumed by other branch. Okay. Hitesh will be taking you through the example and all. But what I am saying, when there is a supply from third party for the benefit of whole, means for, because under GST, each state should need separate registration. So everything is considered as a distinct person. Though at PAN level, you might find it to be one, but at GSTN level for GST, they are different person. So when there is a source from third party, which has been used by all the branches or which is benefit for the one unit, so in those cases, though HO is incurring expense, though HO is making the payment, but those expense may not belong to HO itself or it may belong part. So for that, ISD comes. Now, second part which comes is expense, which is internally generated expenses. The expenses which is internally generated in HO, like the admin related cost, software related costs, where the HO only do all the admin related work and providing service to all its branches. So this is internally generated services, which for which majorly cross charge come. Then one is actual service which is provided. So by way of facilitation, where HO is providing service to their branches. Under GST, I'm saying actually there cannot be any service between one pen, but as GST under GST they treat GSTN wise, so there can be a from one GSTN to another GSTN, there can be a service for supply of goods, as we discussed about the Schedule 1 deemed supply. So why I'm saying, because it's not that I can use ISD or cross charge as I wish, but it is based on the nature of expense incurred. Based on that, it will be decided whether it will fall as under which ISD, where I have to distribute the credit, or it will fall under cross charge, where I have to cross bill to my other branches. So that only I just want to bring on before we move further. Hitesh, over to you.
Thank you. So after till now, we have got a brief understanding about the concept of both ISD and cross charge. Both actually look very similar, but are very different. So let's analyze what's actually the difference between ISD and cross charge. So based on these many criterias, I have differentiated between ISD and cross charge. First criteria is the type of expenditure, where ISD facilitation will be applicable where common service expenditure has been recognized by HO on the company's behalf. But such expenditure has been incurred by the HO with respect to all or some of its branches. Cross charge is applicable when services is actually provided by one branch to the another. Now, when to use ISD? When you are centralized, you are procuring the services in a centralized manner. And when you are internally generating services within your own organization between different GSTINs, then you can use cross charge. ITC distribution, how will you do the ITC distribution? For ISD, you need to file a return, which is a compliance at your part in form JSTR 6, and the due date to file such return is 13th of the subsequent month. But for cross charge, no separate returns need to be filed. Even you want to pass on the ITC, you just need to raise a invoice. Coverage. This is the most important differentiation, where using ISD you can only distribute ITC of input services, and using for cross charge you can use cross charging of inputs, input services and capital goods, which are commonly used for all the locations. Based on accounting treatment, it will be differentiated that ISD is only a credit allocation, but in case of cross charge, it is actual recognition, GSTI invoice, but when you consider it on a PAN basis, the revenue remains neutral. Taxability, no GST on ISD credit transfer. ISD is a return where whatever is available to you for transfer, you can only transfer to that extent. So there is no taxability. And for cross charges, for each cross charge transaction, you need to charge GST separately. Now situations, let's understand the situations where ISD will prevail over cross charge. As I mentioned earlier, head office receives invoices for any statutory audit, legal consultancy or any other advisory services which is either used by all the branches of the company or multiple branches of the company. The second may be a case where renting of a corporate office for multiple state units. You receive a tax invoice of rent that is used commonly for multiple state units, especially the rent of head office. Then you can distribute the ITC on that such invoice using the ISD facilitation. The third expense which may fall under ISD is advertising and marketing campaigns. If the head office is uh, making advertisements or conducting marketing campaigns throughout the country at different locations, but the invoice is being received by the head office, but the ultimate benefit with respect to such services is being, allocated to each of the branch of the company, then in such cases, ISD facilitation can be used to distribute the credit to the extent where such services has been utilized to that extent. Another important example is employee group insurance taken by the HO. Now, many of you may raise a question, why will we take the ITC on such expenses? Employee group insurance, yeah, it is blocked under 17.5, but in case of Form GSTR 6, you have the option to actually mark it as ineligible and then distribute the credit to the respective branches, and the rest aspect of it will be taken care in the respective branches returns. Now, situations where cross charge prevails over ISD. Suppose the head office is providing HR, IT or admin services to its branches internally. So, like payroll function of the company, entire payroll function of all the branches is being taken care at the head office. So, when head office bills to each of these branches, it comes under the purview of cross charge. Another important example is like warehousing services provided by one branch to another. If some goods of maybe Karnataka branch are being stored at Delhi branch and Delhi branch has a warehouse, so Delhi branch is providing warehousing services to the Karnataka branch. In that case, cross charge will be applicable. Another important example is like software license or IT infra hosted at one location. Like whatever software is being used in the office or whatever software is being used in the organization, the server is located at the head office. Suppose my head office is in Karnataka, but all my branches at Bombay, Delhi, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, all branches are using such software services. Then in such cases also cross charge will be applicable. Now, after understanding the differences between ISD and cross charge, we come to the distribution mechanism under ISD. The distribution mechanism has been prescribed under Section 20 of the CGST Act. It states that ISD distributes credit of only input services. We are now very much aware of the fact. It does not distribute common inputs of input goods and capital goods. Now, how the ISD mechanism works is like credit of central tax can be distributed as CGST or IGST, and credit of IGST is distributed as IGST only. To understand this in a better way, let us consider a practical example where I have a registration in ISD registration in the state of Karnataka. Also, the third party vendor from whom I am receiving an input service, he is also registered in the state of Karnataka. So obviously, since the location of the recipient and the location of the supplier is the same, it is an intrastate supply. The third party vendor will be raising an CGST and SGST invoice to me in the state of Karnataka. Now, how do I distribute the ITC of this particular invoice to my head office in Karnataka and branches in Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu? Because if I distribute CGST and SGST, Karnataka SGST to Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, it will not be acceptable there because they don't have any KSGST output liability. The output liability which they will be paying will be Maharashtra GST and Tamil Nadu GST respectively. So what do I do in these situations? So when I receive an invoice from a third party vendor, which is actually in the same state as my ISD registration, then in case I'm transferring the input of CGST and Karnataka SGST to my head office, I will transfer it in the same head, and the balance input which I need to transfer to Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, I will transfer it as IGST. I will not transfer CGST and SGST. Now considering a case where my third party vendor is in a different state from where my ISD registration exists. I have considered the example where my ISD registration is in the state of Karnataka and my third party vendor who is providing me taxable common input service is in the state of Delhi. So obviously he will raise me a IGST invoice. Now when I receive IGST credit, then I have to distribute IGST credit only to my respective branches in Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu. I cannot convert IGST into CNS. I need to distribute IGST only. So if we summarize, if I get a local invoice from a third party vendor, I will distribute local credit to the places where I have registration locally and IGST to the places where I have registration in different states. And if I get an IGST invoice from a third party vendor, I will distribute IGST only irrespective of in whichever state I am distributing. Now, let's look at the conditions which we need to follow for the distribution of credit. Credit should be distributed in the same month and reported in GSTR 6. The credit which is distributed should not exceed the credit which is available for distribution. Based on this, very old circular was also issued that in case you are distributing the credit in excess of whatever is available for distribution, you might be penalized as per the provisions of the law under section 122. Now, how I determine the manner of distribution? I need to identify the input service which is with respect to which the invoice has been issued. If that input service is specifically belonging to only one of my branches, I will distribute fully to that branch only. But if that particular input service is not attributable to one specific branch and it is attributable to more than one or all the branches of my unit, then I will distribute it based on the turnover on pro rata basis. This basis has been given in corresponding rule 39 of CGST rules. Now, what will be the relevant period for turnover consideration? Rule 39 of CGST rule states that you need to check whether all your branches were existing in the previous year as well or not. In case all your branches which are functioning this year, if they were existing in the previous year as well, then you need to distribute the ITC based on the turnover of the immediately preceding financial year based on the turnover of the financial year immediately preceding the financial year in which the credit is being distributed. So if I talk about financial year 24-25, I need to check the turnover of financial year 23-24 of all such branches. Now, in case there might be situations where some of the branches have become operational in 24-25 only, they were non-existent at the time of 23-24. So, in such cases, what we need to do? We need to consider the turnover of the immediately preceding quarter, not of the year, but immediately preceding quarter. So, in any case, here the government will be neutral. The tax effect will be neutral because I may not be able to plan the tax, that I may not be able to do things in a way where I allocate higher credit to the locations where my taxable supply is more and lower credit to the locations where my taxable supply is less. Based on that, it cannot be done because it is totally turnover based. So what if any branch of yours where the turnover is high, and turnover here will include both exempt and taxable as well. So where your turnover is high, in suppose in that branch your exempt turnover is high, so based on the turnover you are appropriating your inputs. So scope of tax planning gets reduced by virtue of this. Now, how do we allocate and segregate? First, we need to segregate the credit. Whatever input service credits we have received during the month, we need to first conduct a eligibility check, whether the same is eligible or ineligible. Ineligible as in case like 17.5 credits or by any other section rule, any credit which is ineligible, we need to segregate them. After segregating the eligible and ineligible, we need to segregate the credits which are allocable to only one particular branch as per rule 39 subrule H subclause C. Once specific branch credits also gets removed, the remaining credits need to be distributed based on the turnover.
One small correction here, the previous slide. So there are three level of allocation. One, any credit pertaining to only one branch. Let's say the head office in Maharashtra received a stock audit bill of Assam. They would allocate to Assam. Then let's say they got the stock audit bill of northeastern states. Then they would be allocating those credits attributable to one or more, but not all branches 39 HD. Rest, you cannot specific to anything, that will go to 39 HC. That means ISD has to be done qua invoice level. So each invoice you have to determine whether you want to do it to one branch, 1 plus 2, 3 branches, or all the branches. After determining, then you will apply the turnover ratio accordingly. Continue.
Yeah. So once I allocate the specific credit to the specific branches, specific credits to some of the branches or non-specific credits, then I allocate those credits in the ratio given in the turnover ratio, where C is the total ITC which is available for distribution. T1 is the turnover of that respective state during the relevant period, and T is the turnover of all the recipients during that relevant period, be it the preceding financial year or be it the preceding quarter. So what is the formula which has been given? It is like C1. C1 I am considering to be the credit of one unit, one branch. C1 is equal to T1 by T into total available input C, and total of C, all the branches will actually accumulate and give me the figure of C. After doing this, we now need to determine under which head we need to distribute the credit. As already said, if I get an IGST bill from the third party vendor in my ISG registration, I need to distribute as an IGST only. But in case I am getting a CGST and SGST bill from the third party vendor and my ISD registration is also in the same state, then and my branch is also in the same state, I'm sorry, like if I receive a bill of CGST and SGST in Karnataka, and my Karnataka ISD registration is also in Karnataka, my head office is in Karnataka, and my branches are at Delhi, Bombay, and Tamil Nadu, then while distributing such credit to the head office, I'll distribute it as C and S, and while distributing it to the branches of Bombay, Delhi, and Tamil Nadu, I will distribute the credit as I. Now, coming to this discussion, like, is there any alternative to ISD? Because see, for companies having 2-3 branches and where the human resource to do the work is not at an appropriate level, it will only increase the burden of compliance. So we need to check whether do we have any alternatives to ISD. Now, second, what is a best alternative which is available to us if we want to avoid ISD compliances? In respect of each service, if possible, try and get an invoice with respective GSTMs of the branches. If that is possible, then there is no need to comply with ISG compliances at all, because you are getting the branches respective invoices for respective branches, and you are not booking the expense fully at the HO level. You are booking the expense at the branch level only and closing the subject matter. Next, what is important is to understand whether the, the substance over form, like as I discussed the cases where advertising and marketing services. Now, if advertising and marketing services are taken by the HO, okay, they are providing these services. Now it relies upon the HO to decide on which state, wherever, however, to what extent they need to advertise or they need to market to, to ultimately uh, benefit the company as a whole. So in case if you say that it's a function of HO only, even though the ultimate benefit is being reaped by the branches, but still there might be people of the opinion who would say that since it's the function of the HO and HO has received the bill of for such advertising and marketing services, accordingly ISG mechanism will not be applicable to this. But again, this is subject to a litigation. It might be litigated in the future from at the department's end, and if any prospect view is taken upon this matter, it should be kept in mind that litigation may arise. Now, what else can be done to avoid ISD compliances? Since cross charge is also coexisting at the same time, we can actually take bill in the name of the HO and we can internally raise invoice on ISD registration. So once we get the bill from HO once we get the bill from third party vendor in our HO registration, and from HO we raise it to the ISD. So our compliance gets reduced at this stage as well. Now, as you all must be aware that from 1st April 2025, ISD applicability and ISD mechanism has been mandated. They have proposed it to make it mandatory since 1st April 2025. So what we as taxpayers, where we are having several branches throughout the country, should do, the preparedness which is required at our end for complying with the ISD mechanism. First and foremost, we need to assess which are the locations where common ITC will accrue. And we need to take ISD registration today itself. We should not wait till 1st April 2025 and then we should apply, because even taking registrations will take a lot of time. Then we need to identify all the common services on which input tax credit needs to be allocated. If possible, we need to communicate with all of the vendors. Once ISD gets implemented, we need to communicate with all the vendors of common input services that the common ITC needs to be given under our ISD registration and not to the HO registration. Once you have communicated that, again you have to cross-check whether your vendors have actually furnished your common input service invoices in your ISD registration or in the HO registration. If they have errored, if they have done an error in furnishing your HO registration number only, then you have to get it amended to your ISD registration in order to able to allocate input to the respective branches. Then again, we have to be very sure about the accounting system which we are employing in our accounts, in our books of accounts. We need to cross check for 2B reconciliations and all, because earlier the credits which were coming in our HO registration, now those credits will be flowing to the ISD registration and they will get allocated to various branches. So the accounting system will undergo a huge change in itself, and we need to make sure that whatever credit is available to us, we do distribute such credit and we don't lose on the credit due to our error of not distributing such credit to the respective branches. Now coming to this, some more issues pertaining to ISD which needs to be addressed or which is still debatable. The first is the issue of applicability of section 16 subsection 4. Now, although it is mentioned in the law that ISD returns need to be filed every month, post means up to 13th of the subsequent month, credit needs to be distributed monthly, but the portal actually does not restrict us to distribute the credit as and when required. So the portal law and the actual law don't move on the same page, but depending, we cannot rely upon the portal law. We need to rely upon the language which is written in the actual law only. So whether 16.4 will be applicable in respect of ISD invoices per se, if I say in my opinion, like uh, 16.4 very clearly states that in respect of any invoice. Now, invoice has been defined under section 31, and section 31 states tax invoice. But in case of ISD invoice is again a different invoice and it is not coming under tax invoice. And this fact has also been clarified in Rule 36, where Rule 36 specifically mentions tax invoice under 36(1)(a) and ISD invoicing 36(1)(e). So both the documents are to be treated separately. So whether or not ISD invoice will come under the scope of section 16 subsection 4 or not is a very litigative matter, and the department might litigate in the future, but it is always advisable to distribute the credit as and when it is received in order to avoid litigation and to be compliant enough in terms of ISD provisions as well. Now, second important thing is ITC distribution in case of SEZ. Now, what happens in case of SEZ is like special economic zone. So, whenever you make a supply to an SEZ unit, you always charge IGST. So, three burning questions come out when we use the ISD route. Whether do we need to charge any GST on that, or can we take the benefit of section 16 of IGST Act, whereby like they are saying that you need to charge any tax to SEZ, and like when if my ISD registration and the SEZ registration are both in the same state, whether do I need to charge CGST or SGST, or whether do I need to charge IGST? So these are the burning questions. Like in case my SEZ unit is also in Karnataka and my ISD registration is also in Karnataka, and I have received an input service invoice from a third party vendor who is also of Karnataka, and I have SEZ plus non-SEZ units both in the state of Karnataka. So when I distribute the credits, then whether I will be permitted to distribute CGST and SGST to my SEZ unit. Whether, because in case of SEZ, in case of outward supply of SEZ, the CGST and SGST tab is locked. So whether such CGST and SGST credit will be actually flowing to the credit ledger of SEZ. And even in case if it is not CGST, SGST credit also, even if I am distributing any credit to SEZ through way of allocation in using ISD mechanism, then such credit is only getting accumulated. It is not actually utilized, because SEZ does not have any outward liability to pay. So whether I will be getting a refund of such credit or not, in many cases we have seen that department actually litigates, and it's not that easy to get the refund of SEZ input tax credit. So this is another burning issue which lies in the ISD mechanism. Now the third issue which I have quoted is like claiming of ITC through ISD route, which otherwise is restricted. Like normally if we see if any property means head office rent, suppose my head office is in Delhi and I am receiving a tax invoice in Delhi pertaining to CGST and SGST of Delhi, and I also have a ISD registration in Delhi only. So what I can plan in that way is like I take the rent invoice in the not in the HO registration of Delhi, but I take the rent invoice in the ISD registration of Delhi, and I distribute such input by way of ISD to other branches of the company. The CGST and SGST of Delhi gets converted to IGST and gets distributed to other branches of the company. Another example, if I would take, is like suppose I have my head office in Karnataka. I have a ISD registration in Karnataka only, and I have a branch office in Mumbai. But due to some or the other reason, I have to conduct many conferences and those sort of things in hotels in Bombay. But if I don't have any ISD registration in Bombay, now when I conduct such you know when I conduct such conferences in Bombay to promote my sales or something, then I get a CGST and SGST bill from the hotel in Bombay. And in let's assume my Bombay outward supply is not that much, but my HO outward supply is very high. So whatever input I am getting in my Bombay registration, that is actually being kept is not getting utilized. So my first question, like whether I can have multiple ISD registrations, well, very well, yes. It's nowhere restricted in the law that if you have a ISD registration in Karnataka, you cannot have an ISD registration in Maharashtra. So what can be done in this case? I take an ISD registration in Maharashtra as well. I take the hotel bills in the ISD registration of Maharashtra. Using that ISD registration of Maharashtra, I transfer the inputs to Karnataka using the IGST, and I utilize such inputs in Karnataka. Had I not have the ISD registration in Maharashtra, I would not have been able to utilize such credit in Karnataka, and such credit would have lied in my idle in my ECL of Maharashtra only. And the last point is distribution of RCM ITC through ISD. Now what is happening is like in case I have received any services from which are taxable under reverse charge mechanism, what is to be noted here is like GSTR 6, the ISD return does not have any payment facility here. So any input service which I have received and the tax on which has to be paid under reverse charge mechanism, I have to route it through my HO registration only. Provided such HO registration, and if it is a common input service, I am saying, suppose a legal matter where I have taken the services of a lawyer and I need to pay taxes on reverse charge mechanism, so I need to route it through HO registration only. So what is happening when I route it through HO registration, like I need to pay reverse charge tax in my 3B of HO, and I claim such ITC in the 3B of HO. Now HO has to bill this to ISD, giving the GSTIN of the ISD. Now as soon as the HO has to report it in outward supply of in its GSTR1, which is actually not an outward supply, because until and unless the credit flows to your 6A, you cannot distribute it through until and unless the credit flows to your ISD, you cannot distribute it using your GSTR 6. So in such cases, there lies a problem where you need to check how you are going to deal with the RCM ITC. Hopefully a clarification will come on the question of passing the RCM ITC through the ISD route, because in case I report it in GSTR1 of HO, again I have to pay the taxes in my GSTR3B. So although there is no such supply, but I have already paid the taxes twice in this case. So I hope the government clarifies this issue, with regard to ISD, RCM ITC, which needs to be passed on through the ISD mechanism. With this, I conclude my presentation. Any questions at your end will be answered.
Thank you, Hitesh. I see there's one question by Praveen, where Praveen is saying that if there is every branch which is taking rent and it is utilizing the rent, in such a scenario and head office having the rent where there is no output liability, so the head office create an ISD registration, get that invoice and distribute back the credit to all the respective states. That is how the ISD needs to be done, Praveen. Any other questions from anyone? Shrikant, about the PPT, yes, the presentation would be shared to all the participants. At the end of the session, after the session, you will get an feedback link from the Stephen. Please give your feedback, letting us know how the session went for you and what are the sessions you are looking for the upcoming days. After you submit, you will get a link to download the material. Please download the material. With this, we come to end of today's session. Thank you so much. Special thanks to Ashika and Hitesh for putting up this presentation. Good day.